Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Senator Nichols, for your work on this bill. We've talked to you earlier, and I wanted to just have some clarification of legislative intent here. As I read the statute, it is not crystal clear to me that a school district may opt out of having an armed security officer on the campus. So if there happens to be litigation in the future concerning what it means to not have available funding or not have available personnel who qualify to serve as a security officer, that's one contingency. Or secondly, if there's litigation or the same litigation concerns whether or not this alternative person is to be armed, would the courts look to the legislative intent here and conclude that we meant the alternative to be that a school district can have somebody fulfill this role who is not armed?
You're an attorney asking an engineer for a legal answer, and my answer is you can litigate anything, as I understand. I've been sued for lots of things.
Oh, and I didn't mean to ask you to interpret the statute. I can't interpret the statute, and that's why I'm trying to figure out, what are we trying to do here? Do we intend for a school district be able to, as an alternative, propose a security plan that does not include an armed person?
It gives you a good, if you do not feel that your school can meet those standards that we're setting up as a requirement, then for good cause, you can come up with another plan.
Which could include somebody who is not armed. Or do they have to be armed?
It's whatever your school district determines as a good cause exception and plan.
And so if your school district determines as a good cause exception that we are going to meet the security requirements contemplated by the statute without an additional armed person on the campus, will they be in compliance with this statute according to your intention and understanding of the statute?
What this statute is trying to do is let each school district know what the legislature intends for you to do. And the intention is to set best practices, and those best practices are have an armed peace officer on each campus. But for good cause, if you cannot, you go with plan B, C, and so on, whatever you think is appropriate for your campus. And so we're trying to set the standards high.
And we think that most school districts will actually have an additional armed officer, and we have some funding. There's some discussion about the adequacy of it. There's questions about the efficacy of it. But if a school district goes with this plan B or C, will they violate the statute if the way they do it does not include an additional armed person?
I would have to see, you're asking me to speculate on what they might have.
Is it your intention that they would be in violation of the statute if they go with plan B or C and their plan B or C doesn't include another armed person?
I'm not even going to speculate. I want to see what their plan was. We're trying to set the standards high. Peace officers, if you can't meet that for good cause, then you sit down, you come up with a plan that's appropriate, that you think the school board thinks is appropriate for their campus and that community for those children.
All right, so presently from our conversation, I take that it's an open question whether or not a conclusion of a school district who can't afford a peace officer or for other reasons can't meet these requirements, it's an open question whether they violate the statute if they come up with some plan that doesn't involve an additional armed person. Is that an open question?
It's not prescriptive in this bill what that answer would be.
All right, so maybe it could be an unarmed person. Maybe.
You're doing a maybe, not me.
Okay, well then you tell me yes or no, because I meant maybe.
What?
I'm just trying to know if and this could be litigation. I want to know if a court is looking at this, trying to ascertain our intent. Can they conclude that we intended for them to absolutely have an armed person, whatever their other qualifications are?
But to a court in my district, I think they might be a little bit different than a court in your district. And
there's a lot of maybes.
I'm not going to speculate on what a court would do.
I just want to know what your intention is, armed or not armed.
My intention is to keep the kids as safe as possible.
I don't think I'm going to get my answer. I'm going to propose that it appears to be an open question as to whether a school district who opts for this B or C hires an additional armed person or an unarmed person. I can't resolve that from the statute, and I was hoping to resolve it from the legislative intent. I don't have it in mind yet, and if you can clarify that, please do, and if not, we'll see what the courts say. If someone brings it up, I don't know that they will.
We'll be back in 18 months, or maybe next week, or this week, I don't know.
Thank you, Senator Nichols.